This is Dan Dicks here reporting for Press for Truth, coming at you here today with a very important video about Canada's newest Prime Minister, Mark Carney's daughter, who identifies as transgender. She uses the pronouns they, them, and she once attended the now infamous gender clinic known as the Tavistock Institute in the United Kingdom that was sued by over 1,000 families because of all the atrocities that it committed against young children. And Mark Carney, the current Prime Minister of Canada, sent his young daughter there to transition back in 2013 when he moved to England to become the governor of the Bank of England. Now, at the time, she was going by her given name, her birth name, which was Sophia Carney, but she eventually changed that to Sasha Carney when she expressed an interest in becoming a writer. She was studying poetry in English and women's gender and sexuality studies at Yale University. She went on to write an essay that talked about her experience as a transgender child, and it also got into what it was like when she attended the Tavistock Institute in the UK. Again, this is a place that was sued by over 1,000 families because of all the brutal gender atrocities that were committed against children as young as 4, 5, 6 years old, who they were trying to, transition at this clinic. In fact, there were Canadian specialists who were urging doctors around here to slow down in treating transgender patients after this UK clinic closed. I did a big report on this back then, titled "Groundbreaking Win, Tavistock Transgender Clinic Sued and Shutting Down." A good start, but not enough. And this is where I explained to you that over 1,000 families were joining a medical negligence lawsuit alleging vulnerable children have been misdiagnosed and placed on a damaging medical pathway. Well, that's the very place that Mark Carney decided to send his child, Sasha Carney. And now the leftist media is trying to bury these revelations that Mark Carney's daughter is a transgender activist. For example, you've got Candace Malcolm, who's the founder of True North, and who broke the story in this exclusive, posts that Mark Carney's sent his eldest daughter, Sasha Carney, to the discredited UK Tavistock Transgender Clinic. And you've got this reporter from the Globe and Mail, a columnist for the Globe and Mail, formerly CBC News, National Post, saying this is a trash story with zero public interest. Defenders will say it speaks to Carney's judgment or something. But that's a terribly weak way to defend publishing a story that cruelly targets a politician's kid just to whip up fury. Sorry, this is no kid. This is a 24-year-old adult who is also the daughter of the current Prime Minister of Canada, who attended the Tavistock Institute and is going through a transitioning phase. This says a lot about the current Prime Minister and where we may be heading in Canada in the near future. Guys, if you didn't see this BombShell report that I recently put out, you'll know that Canada's next Prime Minister, newest Prime Minister, Mark Carney, has a pedophile network that controls him. I exposed that in this video where I did a deep dive into Mark Carney, who controls him, and what can be expected in the near future in Canada under his rule. So considering all of this, some of the stuff we're going to talk about today is going to make a heck of a lot more sense on where it's all coming from. Now, I'll warn you, the controlled opposition in this upcoming selection process, Pierre Poilievre, is no better. I asked him about SOGI, sexual orientation and gender identity, that is being taught in schools, and he didn't even know what it was. He was absolutely oblivious to it. So you certainly can't count on the controlled opposition to get us out of this mess, guys. But today we're going to talk about what's going on with Carney and his kid and much more in this video. But really quickly, guys, before we do, I'd ask that you check me out right here at pressfortruth.ca/donate if you do appreciate my efforts to continuously bring you this information. Here you can do a one-time donation with PayPal. You can do Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies by clicking here. You can click here or here to join up for a monthly recurring contribution. You can send an e-transfer to dan@pressfortruth.ca, or you can send stuff to my P.O. box, guys. Links for all of this is located in the description below. Thank you so much to anybody who takes 1 minute today to support my efforts here at Press for Truth. All right, guys, I don't want to get too sidetracked, but I wanted to start with this crazy article I just saw from the New York Post today. New Jersey hospitals are asking parents to identify pronouns and sexual orientations of newborn babies. Like, what the hell is this? Look at this form that parents have to fill out when they have a newborn child in this New Jersey hospital. What sex was your baby assigned at birth? Female, male, or prefer not to answer? Do you identify your baby as female, male, transgender female, trans woman, male to female, transgender male, trans man, female to male, gendered queer, neither exclusively male or female, or in an additional gender category? You go ahead and just self-describe it. Please specify. Or I prefer not to answer. And this is the absolutely ridiculous one. Which of the following best describes your baby? Lesbian or gay? Straight or heterosexual? Bisexual? Like, what is this? This is absolutely insane. They want you to declare whether your baby is gay or not on the day it's born, guys. This is the kind of stuff that led to, places like the Tavistock being exposed and shut down and sued by over 1,000 families because they were transitioning kids as young as 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. Just completely filling their brains with a bunch of nonsense and then medically transitioning them. It's an absolute travesty. It's absolutely horrible. And this is the place where Mark Carney sent his daughter. In 2013, she wrote about it in this essay. So let's take a look from her own words herself, where she's talking about transphobes, particularly trans-exclusionary radical feminists, or TERFs, that have reacted violently. She says, in my teenage years, existed in close proximity to this TERF-driven scrutiny, which was fixated on identifying how authentically trans people like me really were. In 2013, shortly after I chopped off all my hair into a deeply regrettable, floppy Justin Bieber cut, I moved to London, the land of the Enid Blyton murder mysteries. This, by the way, is the books that were given to her by her mother, which is the reason for inspiring her to transition in the first place. A block away from my new house was the Tavistock and Portnam NHS Foundation Trust, an imposing grey building which contained the country's only child and adolescent gender identity clinic. I watched as my friend, after a year of weekly appointments trying desperately to get an official diagnosis of gender dysphoria, was denied the diagnosis, and with it, any hope of top surgery, because they sometimes wore skirts. I watched organizations with names like the Transgender Trend refer to trans Tavistock patients as experimental subjects who didn't know what was best for them. I watched as my school's former principal told the national news outlet that trans students like me and many of my close friends were cis women who were only coming out to cause turbulence and adhere to anything a bit radical. I watched all this happen, and I quietly stopped wearing underwire bras, and I wore baggier clothes, and I felt a fierce surge of jealousy every time I walked into the Tavistock for therapy and saw patients turn left towards the medical spaces that I didn't even feel trans enough to enter. As someone who felt barred from it in years, I believe firmly trans children deserve access to comprehensive, free, and accessible gender-related medical care. She doubles down on that in a major way right here. Trans children deserve support, love, affirmation of their identity, and access to resources like puberty blockers, hormone therapy, and gender-affirming clothing. They also deserve to have all of this on their own terms, without the legitimacy of their transness being interrogated over and over by transmeds and TERFs. So let's make space for the trans kids whose existence in ways not legible to gender identity clinics, or whose narratives are too frequently co-opted by supposed concerned parents, in quotes. Let's hear it for the inauthentic trans kids believing in themselves just hard enough, running home late for an afternoon tea. Guys, this is Mark Carney, the current Prime Minister of Canada's daughter, talking about transgender children. There is no such thing as a transgender child. Why are we even talking about sexuality at all when it comes to young children? So this is the essay that she penned herself. It's 2 whole pages. It gets into a lot. I'll put the link of all of this in the description below. But guys, it is not looking good for the future of Canada. You know, when this man, who is controlled by a elite pedophile network, is, you know, openly sending his daughter to be transitioned at the Tavistock Institute. Like, if you guys thought Justin Trudeau was bad, you know, because he's a feminist and he was a trans rights activist, basically, and, you know, he did all kinds of things like changing the lyrics to the national anthem to be more inclusive and all this stupid stuff. Like, if you thought that was bad, the newer prime minister has literally sent his own child to the Tavistock Institute to get transitioned, guys. This is absolutely insane. And again, I'll reiterate, if you think the controlled opposition, Pierre Poilievre, is any better, you're going to be sadly mistaken about that. I went and asked him about sexual orientation and gender identity being taught to kids, and listening to him here admit to me openly here that he doesn't have a clue what that is.
I was curious, are you, yeah, for sure. Should kids as young as 5 years old be taught like gender ideology and sexual orientation in school?
No.
No? Okay. Oh, because I thought you were in favor of the SOGI in Vancouver.
What's the SOGI?
Oh, sexual orientation, gender identification is what they're teaching young children in British Columbia.
I don't know anything about that. I'm a federal politician, so
I don't know anything about that. You're talking about young children being taught sexual orientation and gender identity. I'm a federal, you know, politician. What you're talking about is local to BC. So I mean, I don't really, you know, I'm not really gonna go there. Essentially, is what he said. Like he's not aware, guys, and this is not the answer, because as I expose, he's you know, not really going to you know, turn the schools and society against this stuff. He's pretty much all for it. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention what's going on with the current Prime Minister of Canada, the 24th Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, and the fact that his own daughter, who you know, is not off limits here. You know, she's a 24-year-old young adult who have you know, made these decisions, and you know, I believe it's very, very well within our rights to scrutinize this and to point out that this supposed, you know, Christian Catholic Prime Minister is obviously nothing of the sort, and he's not going to be moving in the right direction when it comes to all this LGBTQ plus ideology nonsense that we've been inundated with over the last 10 years under Justin Trudeau. So we're going to be getting more of the same in regards to this type of stuff, guys. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Once again, if you do appreciate my efforts to do so, don't forget to check me out here at pressfortruth.ca/donate. You can check that top link in the description below on whatever video platform you happen to be watching this one on today. And that's all for today, guys. I want to thank you so much for watching. Please click the thumbs up button, share this video, and stay tuned, guys. We're going to have more video reports coming soon, God willing. This is Dan Dicks reporting for Press for Truth. We all want truth. The truth will set you free.